And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House.
Challenger, only seconds after leaving the launch pad, according to NASA, has exploded.
It just has the same seats that like a normal car has. It's literally a normal car in space.
And we're going back to the moon, back to the future, and this time back to stay.
I should tell you that the first mission is scheduled to land on Mars on July the 4th, 1997.
We will undertake extended human missions to the moon as early as 2015.
We launched a new spacecraft as part of a re-energized space program that will send American astronauts to Mars.
We will not only plant our flag and leave our footprint for an eventual mission to Mars.
What you're seeing here is a mirage. It is Photoshop, but it's has to be.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The one thing globe believers need to understand is that you don't just take the spinning ball Earth and flatten it out and put it back in the heliocentric model. Like it's just the only misfit planet and it's flat and the rest of the planets are round. No flat earther has ever said that. No flat earther will ever say that because it's not what we believe. The Earth isn't a pancake floating in outer space, and you will never hear a flat earther say that. And if you would ever actually take the time to study it for yourself or hear a flat earther through, then you would find that it's much different and things would actually make more sense.
They've got the narrative control to where anyone that goes to search for this, they're going to see pancakes floating up in space, you know, and it turns people away. Or they see a snow globe out in the middle of space with water falling off the sides, and they're like, what is this? It turns them away. The mainstream agenda was to push their false narrative, all these hit pieces on flat Earth. 2016, 2017, that was pretty much the end of the YouTube era, where we could actually find real evidence, real content. Any search engine, the algorithms are suited to their favor. You're going to see all the hit pieces. You're going to see all the stuff that's there to debunk flat Earth. So it's just, it's almost impossible to get the real information.
YouTube played their part in it, and not just cherry picking which videos they wanted to show, but deciding whether or not they wanted you to subscribe to somebody. So on several occasions and with several different content creators, I'd press the subscribe button to then find out several days or several weeks later that I couldn't find that content creator, assuming they'd either been deleted or they'd been censored beyond belief. And of course they had been, because my subscription that was previously made was no longer there. And I know that I hadn't unsubscribed to anybody. And then resubscribing, you'd find again that down the line that the same things reoccurred.
There's a major campaign by Google and YouTube and all of these corporate lying companies to discredit the flat Earth. Why do they have that disclaimer under every video dealing with the topic of flat Earth, that it is an archaic, antiquated, outdated model that the ancients used to believe in? Of course, the ancients were stupid. They didn't know how to build Gothic cathedrals, and they didn't know how to build cities and pyramids.
The problem is, people that think that flat Earth is stupid think flat Earth is stupid because they're thinking of a stupid flat Earth. And they ridicule and make fun of flat earthers. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Since 2015, the content providers for Flat Earth have had a living hell. We have been ridiculed, we have been trolled, we have been censored beyond belief by YouTube. It's really difficult to get the truth out there.
YouTube controls the algorithm. Who owns YouTube? Google. These are these big corporations that came in and said, the flat Earth is getting way too big. People are finding this out. We don't want them to find this out. This will just completely destroy our agenda that we've worked so hard for. We're losing it because of our own technology that we created. So they had to get involved. Withholding information and knowledge is a form of control.
Now, for new people coming into the subject, if you research Flat Earth, the Google analytic will give you government hate propaganda against the Flat Earth truth.
If you go to Google and try to find anything Flat Earth related, then the first thing that's going to pop up is the Flat Earth Society. And that is something that has absolutely nothing to do with this movement. In fact, it's a completely made-up organisation in order to deter anybody looking for some sort of truth. so that you'd first of all get to that page, you'd see these ridiculous accusations and this spinning disc illusion that's going upwards in space that I can assure you nobody believes in. If the globe model was as strong as they claim to be, then there wouldn't be so much concern with anybody talking about a stationary Earth model. Now, everything's fine in court until somebody walks in with a load of shit on you. Everything's fine until somebody out there has evidence that's going to prove you guilty. And that's when you start acting suspicious. That's when you start panicking. That's when you start putting damage control out there, which is inevitably what these bots are, what these trolls are on social media, and of course, the algorithms. This is just a new lie that was started in the 20s, and even before then, they weren't really teaching anything about the world and where we were. It was just common knowledge.
One of the main arguments that globe believers come at you with is we've known for 2,000 years. Aristophanes figured it out with his sticks and shadows. Well, Aristophanes may or may not have been a real mathematician. He figured out the shape of the earth. That would have made him the Michael Jordan of mathematicians, but nobody ever mentioned him in a book until the mid-1900s.
What's crazy is I've talked to some elderly people and they've told me that back in their day when they were in school, they didn't even learn about people like Copernicus or Galileo. Everything's up for grabs at this point. People like Christopher Columbus and any other figure in history could be totally false or created just for some sort of agenda.
This is everywhere. We found somebody in Croatia. They said they were teaching flat earth through the 1930s.
Most people think that this flat earth versus globe earth has been going back and forth for thousands of years. No, it has not. This is a brand new deception. They come up with these stories, these fictional stories, fictional characters, to reinforce that we live on a ball.
All of our globe provers, Galileo, Aristophanes, Copernicus, the pictures of them show that they're Masons, but I contend that we don't even know if they're real. All of our history is a lie. I've met people that said that they were taught flat earth in the early 1960s in school. They were taught flat earth and globe earth, and then it kind of just went away. I interviewed Ruth, a 102-year-old woman, back in February of 2020, and she was taught flat earth in public school in Connecticut.
Tell me your name.
Ruth Heath.
Ruth, and how old are you today?
102.
102. So you were born in
1918.
1918. And we were just talking, and I asked you what shape the Earth is, and what did you say? What were you taught in school in elementary school?
I was taught in school that the Earth was flat.
Where did you go to school? Elementary school?
I went to Sprudelin School in Hamden, Connecticut.
So how does it make you feel to realize that you were right as a kid?
It makes me feel better.
It does make you feel better, right?
Oh, it makes me feel alive.
Oh my God, that is so true. My whole life, I believe, you know, what I was taught. And then when I discovered the flat earth,
you feel better about it.
Because we are the center of creation.
That's right.
We are important.
That's right.
We are here.
We are God's children. And when all the problems that are happening in this world today.
I'll give you some good news. A lot of the problems that they report on the news aren't even real.
That's right. That's right.
They're just keeping us in fear.
Keeping up. That's right. That's right. That's right. I understand that. I understand. They just say what they want people to know.
That we never went to the moon? That was all fake?
Is that right?
That's correct.
I saw that all happening.
Yeah, so did I, and we all believed it, but that was just to reinforce that people to believe they can live on a ball, they can walk on a ball.
It's such a lie.
It's such a lie, but knowing the lie is like going to a magic show.
I woke up.
Yes. That's what we call it. We call it red. This is your moment of waking up. It's when you go to see a magician and you know how the tricks are done, and the magic no longer works on you, and you're free from the illusion. So knowing this is going to free your heart.
Cry.
Yeah, it's okay.
It makes me cry.
Happiness.
Yes.
Tears of joy.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, Ruth, give me a hug. Here we go. All right.
Rockefeller seems to have a role in this. He started the General Education Board and continued being involved with the educational system. The fact of the matter is, the people that have been in control, they're in control now, and they're going to continue to be in control, whether they pass it down or change the name, whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, whenever Rockefeller's name is tied to something, it's always something to question, that's for sure.
That's a huge red flag for me, that they can come in and change everything we know, all of history, and turn it into deception, and keep teaching the deception over and over and over again until it becomes the norm.
The same man who said that he wanted a nation of workers and not a nation of thinkers. This was the same person who was found guilty of antitrust violations around the turn of the 20th century, who then went on to get his fingers in all of the education systems, of course with the promise of, I'll give you money, I'll make sure that your school has everything that it needs as long as you push these textbooks, as long as you push these narratives and you push these ideas. I'm going to give you a nation of workers and not a nation of thinkers. And that's exactly what we've become.
Now, this should tell you something, why we can't talk about literally the thing that we're standing on. Why is that?
Okay. You are moving 1,000 miles an hour as Earth rotates. You are moving 18 miles per second in orbit around the sun, and you don't feel any of that. Okay?
Okay.
You don't feel any of that. If it's trying to fling you off the Earth,
okay,
but the force of gravity is resisting back, by what force is it trying to fling you off? That upward centrifugal force subtracts from the gravitational force that the Earth is trying to put on you. It subtracts.
Okay.
So Chuck, what do you weigh here and now?
192 pounds. Yeah.
I'll give you the 190 pounds, okay?
Okay.
So if you do the math, you run to Ecuador, because we're in the Western Hemisphere, so let's stay there. You run to Ecuador, you will not be 190 pounds. You'll be like 185 pounds.
What?
That's how significant it is.
That's
if I did my math correct, and I think I did, there are pounds less that you weigh for living on the equator than for living anywhere else, simply because the spinning Earth is trying to fling you off.
Nice.
Yes. Yes.
If the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour in a curved trajectory, we're dropping at a rate of miles per minute. But somehow none of that inertia affects these rocks here, which are perfectly balanced.
The fact is, the Earth is stationary, and that is scientific, not pseudoscience. In 1879, George Airy, astronomer royal for 49 years, who did a telescope experiment and proved that the Earth was stationary. Then we have
Parallax, also known as Rowbotham, who carried out an experiment in the late 1800s on the Bedford Levels experiment, where he went at a distance of 6 miles, which should have showed up some sort of curvature of around 16 foot. No curvature was seen at all.
Then we have Michelson, Morley and Sagnac in the early 1900s with their interferometers, using light instead of telescopes this time. And with their interferometer experiments, they proved that the ether over the Earth, the field, is moving and the Earth is stationary. We also had Michelson Gale. They did an experiment in the 1930s and proved that the Earth is stationary.
One of the greatest science experiments of all time, in my opinion, is from Marconi. Marconi in 1901 set up transmitters to send radio waves, like signals, wireless signals across the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, okay? So he has one set up in Europe and one set up in Canada, okay? And they're sending signals, I think the letter S was the first one, boom, and it worked. Almost 2,000 miles across the ocean, they got the signal. There's no curvature. You're talking about 600 miles of curvature between the 2 points. But it worked because all water's level. I don't even know if he was trying to talk about that at the time. It was just more about his technology that he was coming out with. And have you learned about that in school? No.
Then we have Pierluigi Gina, a colleague of Marconi. And before he died, he showed people in his laboratory how the Earth is stationary. You can go to my channel, Mr. Astrotheology, and you can see videos of Mr. Pierluigi Gina proving in his laboratory with strobe lights how you can prove quite easily that the Earth is stationary.
Every scientific experiment throughout time looking for axial rotation or curvature has proven the opposite. They don't teach this in schools. Any observation, when you go outside on a calm morning, you can see a perfectly glass lake. And your senses will tell you that, nothing is moving.
We, stationary Earthers, we have science, real science, on our side, and the Globies have pseudoscience. In fact, all they have is Einstein saying, "I have come to believe that no optical experiment can prove that the Earth is moving." And yet, the Earth is moving.
Science!
Yeah, Albert Einstein. I always recommend people go watch Albert Einstein in his interviews. He's reading cue cards. He's reading notes that someone handed him, kind of like people on TV nowadays.
There is no optical experiment ever been conducted that can prove that the Earth is moving.
We have technology that is outrunning their lies. Now we have time-lapse. Ooh, imagine that. We have time-lapse where we can point at the sky and year after year, day after day, hour after hour, the sky's spinning.
Every day there should be different stars, random stars, in the sky if we are traveling at 650 million miles an hour, which is Mach 870,000. Do you really believe that every year we move through space at 5.5 trillion miles every year? And yet every year the same stars keep turning over our Earth. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Year after year after year, and yet none of those constellations distort, change shape, get brighter. There has never been, in recorded history, we have never seen any star get brighter or dimmer or any shape of those constellations which are still recognizable today as they were thousands of years ago. They never suffer any parallax or distortion.
Polaris has never moved in all of recorded history. Point your camera up at Polaris and do a time lapse and watch God's perfect timepiece spin above you.
And we move 5,694,000,000 miles through space every year. Congratulations to you if you believe that. It's called education, indoctrination, and dumbing down.
If you look back in history, you got Universal, their company. They started off with a logo with a globe in it, but it wasn't until like the 1920s that they actually had the motion one where it was a spinning globe. And they actually had an airplane in the early ones, like leaving a chemtrail that said Universal, which is kind of funny. Nobody has been high enough to even see what it looked like. They were definitely trying to instill the image of a globe in people's heads because obviously early on in the movie industry, they were one of the most popular companies to make movies, so people were going to the theater and seeing this globe.
So they're showing you a globe before every single movie to program your mind. They were showing this globe before they even went up there to see what it was. I think the first man ever to go up and check is Picard going up there. I mean, that's a story we're not taught in school.
From the practical point of view, Professor Picard's experiment is of the highest possible importance.
These timelines, these dates, these are facts.
We got Auguste Picard coming out in the 1930s in an actual publication by a science journal saying that the Earth looks like a flat disk with an upturned edge.
Besides Universal programming you had Walt Disney programming you with space documentaries for almost 15 years straight.
Some pretty crazy propaganda in the 1950s. There was one called Man in Space. He's talking about taking men to the moon in a rocket. And then if we cruise on, we got Richard E. Byrd. He goes on Longines chronoscope, and he's sitting down and he's telling people...
Strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being.
Shortly after Richard E. Byrd did that interview, they put the Antarctic Treaty in place, and then 1 year later, NASA is established.
Almost 0 hour at Cape Canaveral, and enlarged 16mm pictures show a monkey specially trained and conditioned for voyaging in space. 2 monkeys had been selected for the job. They called them Abel and Baker, A and B, of course. In fact, the monkeys came down safely near Antigua. Reported none the worse, after blazing the trail for human space travel.
They come in and they're the gatekeepers for your mind. Like, they're making sure that people think that they live on a spinning ball, and that's their sole purpose, that it has always been their sole purpose.
That is the magic of engineering. I would wear a mask on my face in a nanosecond, but unfortunately we lost the technology.
It can take days, even weeks, to produce just a single image. The dazzling final results, enough to keep us all dreaming.
NASA is hiding the frickin' flatness of the Earth. Why? It's okay to say, I have a fisheye lens, right? Because, yeah, fisheye lenses are useful. You know, you get more, you know, in architecture, or, you know, realtors use them. But when you're doing it too much and you're not really coming out and saying why, questions build up.
In 1923, a fisheye lens was invented. So these space agencies had a heads up already. And the fisheye lens was originally, I think, $27,000 to purchase. And this is in 1923. I mean, today that's about, what, 100 grand, 200 grand equivalent in cost? And people would tell me, Hibbeler, I'll give you that. NASA is a lying government entity, right? But what about Red Bull? Red Bull is just an energy drink. And I saw Felix Baumgartner jump out of a space capsule. Flat Earthers did a great job of debunking that. Of course it's a fisheye lens, it's not even a question. What most people don't know is that Neil deGrasse Tyson, you know, the science priest of modern day, that everybody loves and they listen to him. Oh, he's so smart. Well, he is a smart man in the sense of he knows that we debunked the shit out of that.
and that dude who jumped out of a perfectly good balloon, Felix Baumgartner, edge of space jump. Now, you know, I don't, it's, he wants to, I don't have a problem if he does it, but the honesty of it would greatly diminish what I think people thought he was actually doing. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. So in the photo, you see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he said, wow, he's in space, look at that. No, he's not. At that height, you don't see the curvature of the Earth. You just don't. That stuff is flat.
So we put so much pressure on Neil deGrasse Tyson to come clean. He had to. We exposed Felix Baumgartner. That's a complete fisheye lens. There's no curvature at all on this Earth, let alone they're trying to sell it as 23 miles up, there's curvature. Even though people will sit there and swear they saw curvature out of an airplane 10 miles high. Yeah, okay. So your priest Neil deGrasse Tyson admits 23 miles up, no curve. How do you feel about that? All right, maybe you say that's no big deal. Okay. Even though Felix Baumgartner himself said he could see the curvature of the Earth.
It's almost overwhelming. When you're standing there in a pressure suit, the only thing that you hear is yourself breathing. You can see the curvature of the Earth. You can see the sky is totally black. You can see the curvature of the Earth. You can see the curvature of the Earth.
You can see the curvature of the Earth.
That's 120,000 feet, 4 times higher than most passenger planes fly.
So that should make you go, right away, what's going on here? Who's lying, right? But you don't think there's an agenda here? You don't think people are lying here? Fast forwarding to recently, Richard Branson, his Mr. Billionaire himself.
Officially the first billionaire to travel to space, so Richard Branson.
So you go 63 miles up, you would all probably assume that, of course, you could see this giant curve of Earth. You're 63 miles up. Richard Branson supposedly goes up 63 miles, even though it's nothing but fisheye lens footage. We exposed that. Here comes Neil deGrasse Tyson again, damage control time.
Oh, by the way, you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you. Do you know how high up above the Earth he was?
No.
So if you take a
63 miles.
Oh, yeah, say right. So take a schoolroom globe, and that's how high above it is he? So he's about 2 millimeters above the surface of a schoolroom globe. So nobody has seen the curvature of the Earth from that height. I just want to make that clear.
You can't see the curve out of an airplane, right? 10 miles. You agree? I hope you agree so far. Okay. So 10 miles up, no curve. Red Bull 23 miles up, no curve. Branson 63 miles up, no curve. So where is this curve at that you swear by? Because if you live on a ball, I don't care how big the ball is, it could be 4 times the size of what they told us, you would still see a physical curve at some point. That's what the horizon's supposed to be. That's how the sun is going. I mean, there's a curve of the Earth. All these theories involved with the curve of the Earth get thrown out the window.
That's what happens with a new company.
All the things that I was patronizing and condescending and going, oh, sloughing off, that's not worthy of me. They rose up to eye level. And I remember saying, boy, the world is flat. I'm looking it in the eye. I see further, I see wider, I see clearer.
I settled on near infrared, like some of these cameras can be converted to near infrared, you know? So then I started taking photos, and since I was doing a lot of flying, I started going up, and boom. I was actually amazed to see the incredible flatness that you get from high altitude. Everywhere I looked, there was like clues that the Earth is flat. And I was like, this is blowing my mind. Everywhere I looked, the Earth is flat. And NASA is lying about the curvature. So I said, something is eerily wrong over here, man. When I saw across the Gulf, right off the coast of Texas there in Louisiana, flying to Orlando, and I saw all the way out in the distance, and you could even see the rays of light at a different angle. That tripped me out. But if you really go up high, then you realize, oh my God, the Earth is extremely flat.
This would be impossible on a globe. There is no 8 inches per mile square.
Equation for curvature of 8 inches per mile squared has been debunked over and over again. The flat earthers with their P900s and their P1000 cameras are constantly seeing things way off beyond the supposed curvature of Earth.
In fact, many tests have been done with lasers, cameras, filming mountain ranges 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 miles into the horizon, which are visible and shouldn't be visible if we were living on a globe. This is how much distance he covered with his camera, and he could see from here the Rocky Mountains. There you go. There is no 8 inches per mile square.
There's no way you can see 500 miles on the other side of this ball. There's no buildings that are curving backwards. If point A to point B, you're on a ball, you know, they're not gonna be flat up and down like on our flat Earth. They're gonna be like this. There's no tilting. They've measured distances from the base of buildings to the top, level and flat.
People look out at the ocean and you see ships and stuff, and it appears like these ships and boats, they go down, and that is a huge factor as to why people think the Earth is round.
If you look at the ocean or a lake, it looks flat. Look at that. Look how straight and flat that horizon is. Looks flat, doesn't it? See, it looks like a table or a board. Now, once in a while, you might see mountains or hills, but those are just like little bumps on what looks like a flat Earth. As ships sail away, they don't disappear all at once. Now, first, the bottom will disappear. See, the bottom of the ship is gone. Now we can see midway up, and then the whole thing disappears. So people realized that the world is curved. I mean, it's a big curve, but it's curved. That's what we call pseudoscience.
You could buy a camera now that zooms times 100, and you could zoom in on these ships and boats leaving your view, your human eyeball's view, pull out a camera and zoom in on it, and suddenly you're back. It's on top of a level surface, still cruising.
So the limit of your vision is where the sky meets the ground due to perspective. As they come together, that's the limit of your vision. That's called our horizon. The horizon is optical. If you had a super zoom camera, you can zoom in and make this angular size bigger to reveal small objects that you couldn't see. And then when you zoom out, it goes back together and things disappear into the horizon, not over.
We see skylines beyond what we're supposed to see. I mean, the visibility from 100, 200, 500 miles away, it debunks the whole 8 inches per mile squared.
Photogrammetry, I think, is one of the best way to convince yourself. You do multiple images of the ground, and then you put it in a software, and you realize how flat it is. You're seeing it yourself, it's your data, nobody's lying to you. You've taken the data yourself. It's not Jay Tolan that's trying to, troll you. Like some people, they're like, he's trolling people, man.
And it's not SpaceX or NASA doing it either. It's yourself.
Yeah, it's yourself. You're doing your own experiment.
Many times when you're looking out over water, there's waves. Well, those waves will block entire city skylines. If this was a wave right near me, if my face was a city skyline, it blocks just the bottom. But if that wave was closer to you, it blocks much more of it. It's all perspective.
And I thought I wasn't going to get anything that would beat this until I found this photo from Grandmere State Park. This is from Joshua Nowicki. And what you're seeing here is a mirage. Typically, we would not be able to see this. This image would be viewable from much, much higher in the sky, up in space. The story has been one of the most viewed stories on our website ever. They say my explanation is a cover-up. A cover-up to their belief that this picture is proof the Earth is flat.
The one goal I had was to prove that what people are seeing from the other side of Lake Michigan is not a mirage, that they are actually seeing the city.
What do you think, Steve-a?
I think it's amazing, dude. It certainly did. It's not a mirage, I can tell you that.
No.
Our focal point was the Sears Tower,
Which is also known as the Willis Tower, right?
Yes, the Willis Tower.
The Willis Tower, and we can see it the entire time.
We can see it the entire time.
That's not a mirage. That's not a mirage. Whatever you're looking at.
See it?
Yeah.
That's that. You see that bridge?
It's not a mirage. That's the proof right here. That's the proof.
I was shocked to find out that there are a number of people that believe the Earth is still flat, and that to them, this is actually proof that the Earth is flat. One person just questioned me and asking me for a retraction of the articles and lies. A lot of people try and kind of be nice about it. Well, are you sure you did it right? And then they send me links that the Earth is flat. And some are just pretty straightforward about it, and they title replies calling me a deceiver, and that I should check my degree or quit telling lies on television. It got me questioning a lot of things. Were my calculations right?
No. You can obviously see Chicago from that far away. It really is the Chicago skyline. We can see things farther and farther away than that and prove it. You can prove it yourself. You can go there on a clear day and see the same thing. You can go do the same tests and prove it to yourself. That's the best way to do it, right? Prove it to yourself. You're not taking anyone's word for it. You're doing your own experiment. It's not a mirage. It's not an illusion. It's Chicago from 60 plus miles away. I mean, we could barely see the street sign a few blocks ahead of us on a foggy day. I mean, they're spraying our skies with shit all the time. You can open your weather app right now and it'll tell you the visibility. That's how far they're telling you can see through the weather patterns. There's so many different factors of why we can't see that far. We're not superheroes. I mean, take any flat and level road around your house safely. Test it out, make sure it's level. But you take your camcorder and you bring it all the way down to the ground and you zoom in and you see all this distortion and it kind of vaporizes and globe heads want to add like this bridge is bending around a curve and there's the curve. It's like, no, it's an optical illusion. That's all it is. This has been replicated many, many times. There is no curvature. Stop fooling yourselves. That even something like the sun, when it goes across this huge plane, it sets and it disappears due to
perspective. So you're seeing it come and go on such a vast plane. It's so huge that the sun could come through and go so far away that it just goes out of your view and behind so many false horizons, i.e. mountains, trees, forests, city buildings, just really tall things. Keep in mind, the sun is much smaller and close.
Water. It's always flat, always level.
So starting at the northernmost point, as far as I can get, of Lake Michigan, and then traveling south, you can see that red line here, that the body of Lake Michigan is 574 feet above sea level, and it's level. There's no change in elevation, there's no curve. This cross-section shows what an undisturbed body of water looks like, and that's level. We know that to be true. There's three properties of liquids. They have mass, they take up space, and they always take the shape of their container.
The physics of water is to find and maintain level. So if it's in a cup, to this lake behind me, to the seas, to the oceans, that's why I call it sea level, because it's flat and level. No matter who tries to sell you the idea that water's curving over a ball, it's just not happening. That's the #1 proof right there, just water alone. Water alone proves that the Earth is flat, because water always finds and maintains level, period. Water does not curve. In its temporary state, it's finding its level. Once it hits the ground and finds its level, it remains level.
I never even thought of the idea of water maintaining its level, and that alone just like mind-blowing. Like, absolutely, water has to maintain its level. Like, it's always, if it's calm and there's nothing going on, you know, you look at a lake, it's just chilling, flat. It has to be. It can't curve.
There's nothing you can say or do to ever show water bending or curving. Water needs to be contained. No matter what you do, it's going to remain level.
The flat Earth proves beyond a shadow of a doubt the existence of intelligent design, a creator, and we are all important in the center of the universe.
Yes, it is absolutely imperative that we know that there is a creator, that the sun, moon, and stars revolve around us, that we have a purpose. We are at the center of the universe. I didn't become a millionaire until I realized I was at the center of the universe. Now I have a purpose.
Once you understand that you are at the center of creation, everything changes. And basically, we're unplugging from the matrix. We're unplugging from the heliocentric system. And when you do that, the rulers of this world, you unplug from them. You stop feeding them what they need. They want your fear energy. They want your labor. They want everything from you. And people unknowingly just keep giving it to them.
I don't want my children to be lied to, and I don't want my grandchildren to be lied to either. So if this is going to stop, it starts with you and I.
You know, they inherit all this stuff. You go to school and they teach you. When I was in grad school, man, I was shocked that most of my classmates were not really interested in learning. They were interested in passing a class.
On the one side, tens and tens of scientists proven that the Earth is stationary, and we have nothing on the globe side, so the Earth is stationary.
No one thinks how easy it is to do this, and they pulled it off, unfortunately. But we're here now to completely reverse this, and people hate on us from the left and from the right. Everyone hates on us. Like, shut up with your flat earth stuff. It's not important. It's the most important thing. It opens the door for everything else. You want to know the truth? You have to know where you live.